And I was like, I'm about to work out. And I was like, hey, man, why are you still punting? He said, oh, no, I got a scholarship. And I was like, scholarship? What's that? He was, Alex, you don't know what a scholarship is? I was like, genuinely, I don't know. What is that? And so he broke it down and he told, oh, no, I'm getting my books sent and half of my tuition paid for. And I was like, hold on. You're playing football. You're punting. And you're getting part of tuition in school paid for. He said, yeah. That was one of the most impactful conversations at that time I had in my life.
A light bulb goes off.
And I was like, hold on. So when I watch college football, you telling me those guys, they have college paid for because they play football? Yeah, changed my life.
It's the Fit for Radio podcast, and I am Drew Tiedemann, your host, and we are, as usual, here at the Stafford Hills Club. As I rolled in here this morning, got my gym bag packed away. After we're done with the interview, I'll be over there working on my mentals and my physical health, crushing it, and then maybe I'm going to go full-on dawn mode and hit up that steam room when I'm done. If you haven't been here, if you haven't seen all of the amenities, the amazing new weight room, check it out, staffordhills.com, and hit me up personally for half off your initiation. Today, I've got an amazing guest in the studio here with me, a guy who actually spent some time at a place I love very much, which is the University of Oregon, playing football for the Ducks, went on to the NFL, and then has redefined himself through multiple phases of his life, but so happy to have him in studio. It's Alex Molden. Welcome in.
Drew, man, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, it's great to sit down with you. I actually had multiple friends reach out to me. I actually meant to bring one up before we came on, but someone who spent some time with you over at Nike long before another mutual of my friend, one of my friends, got us together for coffee. And he said, you got to get Alex on the show. And then his next quote was, he will change your life. And so I thought that was quite a little compliment coming your way. Now, just to walk it back for you, you were raised in a military family, correct?
Correct.
And you spent some time traveling around as a kid. Now, did you spend time in other countries? How did you grow up?
So I'm originally from Detroit and lived there until I was, I want to say 4 or 5. And then my dad got stationed to Fort Sill, which is in Oklahoma. So I spent 3 years in Oklahoma. And then from there, we went to Germany for 3 years. And then from there, we got back to the States. By the time that was like 10 or 11. So this was in 83. And we call Colorado Springs home.
Okay. So did you find that difficult moving a lot as a kid, having to pick up and not get those long-term friends, or how was that for you?
I mean, it was early enough where it was like an adventure. You know what I'm saying? Like you spend some time. It was, you had make friends. And when it was always like the sad part, moving away from your friends, thinking you're going to see them again. But also the really tough part, but I got used to it, and it really helped me out later on in life, was like being that new kid in school, and the anxiety that comes with that. Like you coming in and, most of the time we was getting there, not at the beginning of the school year, but like midway through.
Which is way harder.
It's way tougher. So getting in there, kind of figuring out where things are, the friend groups and whatnot. And, but it really helped me out later on in life, but it was very uncomfortable when I was going through it during those early years.
Mm-hmm. And as a guy who ends up being an athlete and traveling from city to city, I could see how that would it would be a bit of a trial by fire to build you into being able to kind of be a chameleon into different cities.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, with the cities, which was cool, seeing different, the Deep South down in New Orleans is totally different than West Coast San Diego, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was really going to the different teams. I played for 8 years in the NFL and I played for 4 different teams, and you're going to this new team that has a different culture, and you're trying to fit in, right? You're
Hmm.
trying to, early on it was trying to fit in, but now it's like, okay, I'm old enough. Let me go in here and do my job, get the proper language, because with football, everybody runs the same thing. It's just the different things that they call.
Hmm.
You just got to get the language right. But then also the empathy, because you start to realize like some of these rookies or some of these people who are coming, they're new to the squad, and they're new to the city. Some of them might have families, right? Some of them, they're hanging on by a thread. And I've been there,
Hmm.
and I wanted to show them that, man, I want to make them as part of the team as quick as possible, because I've been where they are, and I did it at a young age,
Yeah.
but now I'm doing it at a professional level.
I think that's impressive, to remember those things and remember those feelings. So when you come back from Germany and you guys find your way to Colorado, that's where you end up finding kind of like a home base for a while. How long do you get to stay?
Yeah, so I was there from 5th grade all the way to graduation of high school.
Oh, so you got a good solid run there.
Yes, yes. I had a lot of, high school, middle school friends, both male and female, that I still keep in touch with.
Are you playing sports at this point? I know that you, for in the grand scheme of football, especially the way kids are now, they're introduced so early. Were you playing other sports? I mean, you're in Germany. Were you playing soccer? Were you playing other basketball? What were you, or anything organized?
Yeah, and it was more just to get the kids out the house, right?
Yes.
My dad he was working, he was out in the field or doing whatever with the army. And so my mom, it was her and, twins. So me and my twin brother. So a lot of it, we just get us out the house. And there was a recreation center. So anytime there was like, there was baseball, there was soccer. Um, One of the sports that I really remember, and I remember having a lot of success in at a young age, was track. And it was jumping,
Okay, so were you
the
doing
high,
high jump?
yeah, yeah, high jump. I remember doing the broad jump. And I just remember, like, when you would win, you get these ribbons. You get blue, right? Blue for first place. You get red, I think, for second,
Hmm.
green for third. I can't
What,
remember.
what color was participation? Because I believe I have an entire closet full of those. If you'd like to see them,
This was back before,
no
and
participation.
there ain't no participation ribbons.
Well, in all fairness, I don't think my dad would have let me keep them. So you end up going to school in Colorado, but at some point you start playing little football in the streets. Is that where the game comes to you first?
Yes, yes, and this was when we was in Germany. So I want to say like 4th or 5th grade. And the thing about it is, me and my brother, we never watched it. It's not like my dad was some NFL junkie or
Hmm.
college football junkie. And, plus we was over in Germany, so we didn't watch a ton of TV.
There's not a lot of
Street
football on TV
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. So when we would go out there in the streets, and because we lived on base. And so on base, it was, even though we lived in Germany, like everybody, was American. So, you go out in the lots and they're playing football. And so we go out there and, this is back when they had 2 captains, typically was the 2 best players,
Hmm.
and they would pick. And me and my brother, we was always picked last.
And it's so nerve wracking
It
during that
was.
process. Is they're pointing over with the finger and it's right past you every time.
I'm like, man. And but it was because we didn't, our lack of knowledge. We were pretty good athletes,
I was
but
gonna say you could jump.
yeah, they can jump, they can run, but man, I didn't know what a wide receiver did. I didn't
Hmm.
know what a quarterback, what's their job,
Yeah.
right? And what's a defensive back? What do they do? Who is Lawrence Taylor?
Hmm.
Who's Walter Payton?
The
Everybody's,
superstars.
yeah, everybody's saying, "Hey, I'm Walter Payton," or "I'm Tony Dorsett," "I'm Lynn Swan," and I was like, "Who the hell are these people?" And so
the biggest Hall of Famers of their time
Yeah.
is who they are. So does that become motivation for you to not be picked last, or is it just a time where you remember before the talent part of it kind of shined for you?
Yeah, it was more it wasn't motivation, I don't think. It was just, lack of knowledge. And for me, with the frustration, I remember one particular time I went inside and my dad was home and I was like, almost in tears and like, "Dad, can you teach me football?" And this is early '80s.
Yeah.
Ain't no internet, right?
Mhm. You
Ain't no
can't you
internet, none of
can't just
that.
go look it up on the net.
Ain't no Google, ain't no YouTube. And my dad said, "Hey, we have a set of encyclopedias. Why don't you look and see an F and see if there's if it's football is in there." And so for everybody who's under the age of 40 in a set of encyclopedias, that was our World Wide Web.
Yeah.
And so there's every book which was about, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches thick, A, B, C, right? And so I looked under F and I looked and sure enough, they had football. And so I learned the game of football from a granular level. Like I learned what the positions were. I learned what defenses were, what their responsibilities, how they lined up. So I learned it like literally the game of football from an encyclopedia.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful that I did because um, there's coaches that, you don't know how much knowledge they have, and they can be giving you something that's way over your head, and
Mhm.
you skip some of it's like this. It's like having a child and they go from being all wobbly, not being able to move, and then they're almost ready to crawl, but you skip crawling and you go right to walking.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that, neurologically,
You skipped a part of the process.
yeah, the connection part that,
Yeah.
that often comes. So, I'm very thankful that I did learn the game of football that way.
And I'm from a time where we still had encyclopedias because I remember them coming door to door and
Oh,
sold a set
there you go.
to my parents.
Yeah.
Now you were definitely doing a better job of actually opening them. I think I was stacking them on the ground to reach a candy jar, but uh, all that being said, it was a different time of learning. Now with YouTube and Chat GPT and all this stuff, it's just all instantaneous. And one thing about what you've got there, though, rather than YouTube, is it was basically the law of football or the down to its fundamentals, and not some guy ad libbing or not necessarily being correct. Or half the time you go to these search engines or these AI things, and they don't they like you said, they skip a step or they don't understand entirely what's going on.
Yeah.
So for you, as you're now in Colorado, at what point do you realize that you're no longer going to be the guy who's going to get picked last and that you actually have a knack for this?
Mm, I think it really, it started at the Boys and Girls Club. Now, I wanted to play in 5th grade. I wanted to play in 6th grade. I wanted to play in 7th grade, but my parents wouldn't let me. And a big part of it was finance.
Because it's expensive.
Yeah, it was expensive. So, we didn't have $200 to go and,
Mhm.
for registration and cleats and whatnot. Matter of fact, I remember the first pair of cleats that I had, I got it from my dad's, when I was in 8th grade, my dad's friend had a pair from his old high school years. Now, the thing about it, they were like a size 14.
And
And
what are you wearing at that point?
I don't know, maybe
Got
9,
9? Yeah,
right? I'm
at
serious,
most.
man. It was like I had to wear 5 pairs of socks. I know that. And then I had to roll the front, I had long socks, so then I can be able to roll it back so it's more padding so it'll feel
Okay.
better
Yeah.
or fit better. And so, yeah, that was my first kind of
That's amazing.
go ahead at it.
Well, I mean, if you can get good at a game in size 14 shoes when you're a 9, it's kind of like wearing a weighted vest, right?
You know what? I never thought about it like that, but yeah,
And once that comes off, you're just fleet of foot.
yeah.
So you in high school, are we talking freshman, sophomore year? When are you starting to get eyes on you?
I want to say like really, really, I was good in 8th grade, and I didn't say this before, but what gave me confidence was I started lifting weights. I
Mm.
started lifting weights at the boys' club. This before they became the Boys and Girls Club. But in the boys' club, I started lifting weights maybe like in the 6th or 7th grade. And
And that's ahead of the curve. Most sixth graders aren't touching a weight.
yeah, but it was because of a relationship that I had with the rec director. He was such a cool cat. He was strong and big, and I was like, man, how do you?
I could be like that
Yeah,
guy.
how do you do that? Man, come on in here. And you start doing like pull ups and push ups and stuff like that. And man, I started to see after a long time, I started to see some of the fruit. And I was like, man, I like this.
Hmm.
And so that was one of the first deals is getting confident in something. And so I just kind of borrowed that confidence and put it into football. And, my freshman year I played well, got moved up to varsity. Matter of fact, um, when I got moved up, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to play. And, in a playoff game, that's typically what happens, right?
Yeah.
You're freshman, you get
Pulled
moved
up
up
for the
to
playoff.
varsity. And I was like, oh, man, I didn't know this until I got there at the game, but they called me up to be a ball boy. I thought I had my pads.
You're
and
ready to
everything.
rock.
It's oh no. You're gonna shag the balls. When the kicker kicks it,
Yeah.
you get that to the referee.
So you weren't even in uniform.
I wasn't even in uniform. No, I had my jersey on.
Yes, but still, it was kind of like honorary member.
Yes.
And it is kind of a way for the coach, and I don't know what kind of coach you had, but it kind of leads you into being one of the guys the next year. Because I'm guessing you came in as a sophomore, and that whole narrative shifts.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of those things like, I coach on and I speak on leadership, right? And expectations. And expectations they can be good, and sometimes they can be not so good.
Hmm.
And so the expectation of me, you know, um, playing varsity football as a freshman, I expected it, but it didn't happen. And so, but that fueled me to go out there and show not just to coaches or to my teammates, but to myself. And so I went up, as a sophomore, had opportunity to start, and I did that. We were switching off and on. Me and another, he was a grade ahead of me, and I ended up pulling my hamstring, and
Mm.
it's the first injury I ever had. And I just remember, battling back from that, and I was relegated to JV.
Okay.
And so I remember, you're with varsity for half the year, and it's just a different.
And then you kind of get sucked down into this different B league type of a
Yes.
thing.
And I remember that was the first time I seriously, honestly thought about quitting football. I remember skipping practice.
Which that is, I mean, and you're just a kid at this time who shouldn't be judged by it, but that's the kind of adversity, though, that you have to find a way to battle through. I mean, that's the kind of thing where, and you're a father and I'm a father, where my kid gets in the car at soccer and she's been put on the B team and the other girls are on the A team and she thinks it's unfair. And you can see they're just starting to go down a rabbit hole of, I'm going to quit. And it's like, hey, take it easy, take it easy. That's that's young blood feeling right there.
Yeah, that's being in your emotions.
Yes.
And sometimes, when you can be in your emotions, you just can't live there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you live there, then you start to believe a narrative that's not really true.
Yeah. Acknowledge them. Don't wallow in them.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's good advice. So you don't quit, right? You stay with the team. Do you have to finish your sophomore year with JV, or do you get brought back to your team?
Yeah, I end up getting brought back. Yeah, and played in the uh, towards the back end of the season and then into the playoffs. Yeah.
Okay. And so you get into the playoffs. Are you at a bigger school? How is this school at football?
In Colorado Springs, we were one of the dominant teams.
Okay, so you're in the action
Yeah.
every year.
Yep, every year. Yeah.
Okay. Now you guys get to the playoffs sophomore year. As you're cruising along, do you find more success than just getting to the playoffs? How does this team go deep in a state run, or how do you start to establish yourself? Because I mean, I know where you end up. You end up in college and the pros. So, so many high school football players, their story is just like yours right here. Like
Mm.
at sophomore year, we're right there. Most of us don't end up doing what you did. So where's the difference? Where does it change?
I think for me, it changed when I found out what this vehicle could do. Right. What when you really pour in your all and you really just you put all your eggs in one basket.
Hmm.
And for me, it happened the summer before my junior year. Right. So I'm out there training right during the summertime, and I'm about to do some wind sprints, and I see a uh, a former player who I played with. He was a senior. I was a sophomore, right? And we're out there. He was a punter, and so he's punting these balls. Boom, just
Banging away.
yeah. And he was a good punter. And I was like, I'm about to work out, and I was like, hey, man, why are you still punting? He said, oh no, I got a scholarship. I got a scholarship at Adams State. And I was like, scholarship? What's that? He was, Alex, you don't know what a scholarship is? I was like, genuinely, I don't know. What is that? And so he broke it down and he told,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm getting my books and my books and half of my tuition paid for. And I was like, hold on. You're playing football. You're punting and you're getting part of tuition and school paid for. He said, yeah. That was one of the most impactful conversations at that time I had in my life.
A light bulb goes off.
And I was like, hold on. So when I watch college football and I'm watching Oklahoma and I'm watching USC and Notre Dame, you telling me those guys, they have college paid for because they play football? Yeah. Changed my life. Like
Mhm.
I was like that racehorse. When they get those blinders,
Yep. Now it's on.
that's when I heard that, I started doing all type of research. And this is, like I said, pre websites and all that type of stuff. I started looking, uh, what was that? Sports Illustrated.
Oh yeah.
And I started like, okay, reading as much as I could about like, what are the benchmarks for these football players. Now remember, there was Tony Mandrich. He was an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
He showed like an incredible bulk, right? How much he ate, how much he weighed, how strong he was, and all that. And I was like, okay, that's what I needed right there. Now, granted, this dude is 315 pounds, right? I can't do the same workout and move the same weight, but I was shooting for that.
Yeah. I mean, your frame doesn't scream that we want you to run up into the 300s. I don't think
Exactly.
that's going to be ideal. But um, at some point, did you go through a growth spurt? Was there or were you always, kind of moving along the same size scale? Because you started lifting weights when you were a kid. And so you were already kind of building a bulk. Was there into that sophomore, junior time? Do you get bigger? Is it just about work ethic?
I think it was just about work ethic. It's not like I was,
Hey, you didn't have this monster like
yeah, I
moment.
was, I was, I was long. I was probably the same height, right? About
Hmm.
5'11". Um, but I was just skinny. I remember my freshman year, I was like 135 pounds.
Hmm.
I looked, man, my arms were long, long legs, short torso, built funny. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And big hands. Um, but I didn't really grow a ton more. I started to pack on weight and build more muscle.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't technically a pretty runner. I was fast, but that was just because my mama's genes.
Yeah. It was all, you were always going to be fast. And, I will point out that you should call the people over at Wikipedia. They're robbing you of an inch and a half. They've got you at 5'9.5" on
No,
Wikipedia.
that's some bull. I'm gonna tell you right.
They got you at 5'9.5", and I'm like, I met this guy. I stood next to him. There's no way he's 5'9.5".
That lets you know that you can't believe everything you see or read or hear on the internet.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
It's the Fit for Radio podcast, and it's brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. If you haven't been here, you got to check it out. StaffordHills.com. They've got everything you need, whether you're lifting weights, you're into the cardio, or you'd like a guided class. They've got everything there. Also, the saltwater pool, people doing laps with the steam coming off it at dawn. It's so nice. Or if you just want to swim on your own time, they've got you covered. And kick back and relax as we're about to see sunshine every day here soon. So Stafford Hills is your spot to get ready for that beach bod, StaffordHills.com. So you're now at the tail end of high school, and I've always wondered this about college. I went to U of O. I'm a huge Duck fan. I've been to a billion games, but I always wondered about the athlete. When do they actually, and it's getting earlier and earlier anymore now, especially with the pay to play stuff, but back when it was standard issue behavior, when did schools actually start to try and rope guys into their program?
That was typically like, well, for me, it was at I want to say my junior year.
Okay.
And it was because I went to some camps before my junior year. I went to the Colorado Boulder, CU. I went to their football camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also went to another, it was a camp. Yeah, I just, it gave me a chance to compete.
And Colorado is the juggernaut back then because
Back then, yes.
90 and 92, they've got title contender teams. And I believe they won one there.
They won it 90.
90 maybe.
90, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's no better place to go to football camp in 1990-ish than Colorado.
Yes.
So that puts you on somebody's radar, right?
Well, it was really they knew about me. CU did, but nobody else. And so that year, my junior year, I had a stellar year. Like I balled out. I went bananas.
Nice.
And at the end of the year, I was, or I want to say, beginning of my senior year, I was a preseason All-American. So,
and that changes the eyeballs as well.
That changed the eyeballs, yeah. Because I didn't do anything as a sophomore. I barely played.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go improve myself my junior year.
They didn't see you shagging those balls freshman year?
Yeah.
The fastest I've ever seen someone return a ball to a sideline.
But
how dare they?
I didn't even know what a scholarship was. I don't know what I was.
You might want to turn it down. That doesn't sound like me.
Right. But so, balled out, did my thing as a junior. And now I started getting, I remember getting one of my first phone calls was from Oklahoma. And I was like, wow, this is Oklahoma, then USC.
These are the biggest programs ever.
Yeah. Oregon and Colorado, Tennessee. So these schools started contacting me. It was cool to get letters.
Mm-hmm.
But then once they, were able to start calling and you start to hear voices and,
the pitch and the whole deal.
That gets,
it's got to be exciting, right? Because like the world feels like it's your oyster at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like you've got decisions to make. But I see and I know your journey, but I see the shirt that you're wearing right now, and it's a bit of a giveaway. But how is it that you choose a school?
Man, that's tough because you have, you have all these schools. They're kind of telling you the same thing, what you can do for them, what they can offer for you, the dynamics of, playing in a prestigious conference or, prestigious team. But for me, it really came down to, like, when I went to their campus, how did it make me feel? And I went to Colorado's campus, and that felt like home, because I'm
Yeah.
in state and whatnot. But the thing about it, and they just won, right? They just won the national championship. But I wanted to use this vehicle to get out of the state.
You were ready to roll.
I was ready to roll. And and it's not for the reasons that, maybe somebody might think. It was, I know if I was in that state and if I would get a phone call from my mom, because she was in an abusive relationship, after my mom and dad divorced, and she got remarried, and he was an alcoholic. And, and it happened before, where he would put his hands on my mom,
So there's always the fear of that.
the fear of that. And I'm like, okay, I'm 2 hours away. If I get a phone call, I'm going to get somebody. I didn't have a car, but I was going to get down there, and
It's not going to be good.
it's not going to be good. And so I was like, I don't want to have that.
Access at all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting way of looking at it too, because it what you're capable of and who you're going to protect, right? And so I think it's a commendable thing, because when I found out that you went to Oregon and weren't from there or from the California feeder schools, I was like, it's interesting to me, because we spent so many years trying to convince good players to come to Oregon because they're afraid of things like rain and just dark and gray and gloomy. And, and forever that was the stigma. And so to grab somebody of your caliber and to get them to Oregon, that was kind of before its time a little bit, because Oregon's program wasn't the glistening thing that it is today.
Yeah. It wasn't. I didn't watch. I mean, they were never on TV.
No.
I never remember seeing them ranked.
We would play at 9 a.m. I mean, always 8 a.m. sometimes, and
That's crazy.
unheard of now.
Yeah. But it was just when I came up, really the biggest thing is the coach that recruited me. His name is Coach Neil Zambukos. And so he was Coach Zoom.
Okay.
So he had our area. And it was just the relationship that he built with me and my mom and my brother. That was one of the biggest reasons I came to Oregon. It wasn't because they was in the Pac-10 or their win-loss records or my ability to, play early. None of that mattered. It was just the relationship and how he was authentic. And it was always about what the University of Oregon could do for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't trying to sell me like other people were. I went to, Tennessee, went to Colorado on visits. Coach Zoom didn't tell me, oh, you're crazy for even thinking about these schools. Where Tennessee and CU, they were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And so, with just the way he recruited me.
So when back in those days, and you don't have to make any school specific here, especially if it's Oregon, but is it like they say in the movies where they bring you to town and they're showing you all the glitz and the glamour and the pretty girls and the lights and fancy dinners? Like, how do they schmooze you in the early to mid 90s?
Oh man, that's a good one.
Because that's a different thing.
I remember going to, and this is my first time, and when I did my official visits, my mom didn't come with me. I was solo.
Yeah, so that's another thing.
Yeah, so I go to CU, and it's like my first time, in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I get my key. I go into my room, and there's a big chocolate cake, saying, "Welcome to CU, home of the #1 ranked Buffaloes." And then they take you around, and you're the best thing.
Yeah, you're just on cloud 9 as you're there.
Yeah.
Which has got to be tough to decipher between the schools when they're showing you the cream of the crop, the top of the top. Like, that's not your day to day. There's not always going to be a cake on your dorm room bed.
Yeah, exactly.
They're schmoozing you to get you in.
Oh, yes. I went to Tennessee and 103,000 seat stadium. And I go in there and, on my name on the big screen,
Wow.
number one, Alex Molden, number one from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
It's hard not to sign right then, because they've got you all the, I get lost in the moment a little bit. Like, where's the pen?
Yeah. And that's what happens. That's what happens. Like, going through it, with my sons and they, there's a big win or they have, something, whatever. Some of them watch a highlight,
Mm-hmm.
a highlight, and they like, man, I'm ready to sign. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
And even at Oregon now, you see these guys, they go and visit, and when they sign with the Ducks, they've got so much gear. Like, and it's the greatest gear in the world is at Oregon, and they have done an amazing job of making the kids feel like they're special in all that gear.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, okay, I need to go home and talk to my mom about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, I tell my sons who have gone through this journey
Yeah.
of recruitment. It's like, okay, don't make decisions just based off of how you feel. Cause, I can feel good. I can feel great. Like today, the sun is out, I feel like lifting weights. There's going to be other days where it's gloomy and I don't feel all that great,
Mm-hmm.
but I still got to go lift weights. You know what I'm saying?
So don't hang your hat on a single moment.
Don't hang your hat on a single moment or a single feeling. What are your big boulders, your rocks that you want to, why are you going to make a decision? Is it based off of A, B, and C?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just based off of feeling? And it's like, man, feelings are fleeting. You make it off of foundations.
So when you finally decide, I'm going to do Oregon, and you are going to move across the country to this place that you don't know anyone, right?
Yeah.
You're just you and your recruiting class coming in, and you're just going to do it like that. Now, I don't know what the layout was then. Did the players all still live in the University Inn?
Yep.
The giant concrete. It looks like a prison on the outside, but it's kind of nice inside.
All the freshmen. Yeah, all the freshmen went there.
It was so all of the young football players would be there. And so when I went to school there, I first time I had a friend who had a room there. And so I was like, well, they even allow riffraff like us in here. And I walked in, and I'm still a pretty little guy, but I was a very little guy coming into college. And I remember I turned the corner, and there were a couple, they looked like linemen. They could have been DBs who came around the corner, and they were the biggest humans. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is football, the football inn. It's the University Inn, but this is football inn right here. So that was your first spot staying there?
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you like it? Did you feel like you had made the right decision straight away? Were you homesick? How did you feel as you got there?
Man, I felt at home. I got there early. So I was ready to leave Colorado Springs.
Yeah, you were done.
I was done. So, now they do the early enrollees right around now.
Yep.
Or late January. Well, back in my day, like early was July. So I went there after July 4th, and I ended up getting a job. One of the, the coaches and alumni, they gave me a job where I was washing cars, doing, moving steel. Right.
That's such a different time now too. Like now you don't hear about these high level players getting a job at a steel factory or whatever you're doing. I mean, you're having to grind for your dream.
I was the only one. Yeah. And I needed that money to pay for the rent because I was there like 6 weeks early before any other freshman. But the advantage that it gave me to getting acclimated to Eugene, getting acclimated to, the team, the weight room, how they do things, the expectations, the playbook. And so, by the time the other freshmen came in, I was 6 weeks ahead of them.
And Rich Brooks is still your coach at this time?
Yep.
And Do you interact much with the head coach when you're a young player? How often do you actually talk with the big dogs, or is it all position coaches and kind of out into your own section of players?
Yeah. It was, I want to say 90% my position. And actually, it was the majority of my time was with the strength and conditioning coach. And then it was my DB coach, and who was also the defense coordinator. And then the head coach, but very little interaction, especially one-on-one with the head coach.
So you, during your time there, you do run into some adversity. But before we get to that, at what point do you start to see the field as a Duck? You know, because a lot of people, it takes a few years to even get on the field.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, like I knew I had to redshirt because
Oh,
I
so you
was,
did redshirt your
oh, yeah,
first
oh,
year.
yeah, I redshirted. It was no doubt because then that was my plan. Because when I looked at the depth chart, it was when I was going to be a freshman, a true freshman, there was two starting seniors. And so I was like, I'm not going to come in as a freshman. Hell,
And take their
I
spot.
played strong safety in high school. I don't know what the hell a cornerback does. And so I knew there would be a learning curve. And
Smart.
so the expectation, right, was for me to come in. I know I'm not going to be able to take any of these guys' jobs. Let me sit, watch, learn, ask questions. And then by the next year, I should be ready to go. And for me, it was like the biggest thing um, came after that first year, after the 91 season, at the beginning of 92, during the spring practices, right? Spring ball. And so now I'm like, okay, now here's where I'm going to make my presence known. And so the first meeting, was all great. And then you look at the depth chart. I looked at the depth chart. I was like, hold on, this must be wrong. Who put this together? Right here it says that I'm fourth.
Uh-oh.
I'm fourth
That's
on the
way
depth
down
chart.
there.
Like, what the hell? So that took
So
24
people
hours.
have jumped you?
Yeah.
New people or people who they just assumed were better?
Just some older guys.
Okay. So the seniority was
Seniority. Now,
uprooting your.
like, man, come on. Y'all don't know. Y'all don't see that I'm better than. I said, okay. So I was pissed.
That put a chip on your
I
shoulder.
was in my feelings for about 24 hours. And then I came together with the plan. And my plan was this. I said, every time I'm out there, I'm going to be different than anybody else. And what I notice is nobody plays a physical style of football at the cornerback position. Nobody gets up in the receiver's face and challenges.
So you're going to bump them at the line. You're going to get in their grill.
Yeah. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to be ultra physical. I'm going to be different. And so I took that mind frame, and like every day we was out there, it was like, I'm not going to I'm not going to play soft. I'm not going to be timid. Because a lot of what I saw, a lot of guys were playing timid. And so each week, during that 4-week span, each week I moved up the depth chart. And then by the time the spring game came, I was starting in front of another senior.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest
it's got to be tough for him to swallow that, but you're doing the work. And, that agitator, in that first 5 yards off the line is, you can shake up a wide receiver pretty good, and you made a career at it.
Yeah. And really, I was bred to do it because our DB coach, Coach Denny Schuler, who's no longer with us, but he taught me how to play bump and run. And it was different than anybody else. Because I remember my first time lining up in one-on-ones, everybody else was playing 8 yards off. And I got up there and I was 8 yards off, and he blew his whistle. He said, "What are you doing?" What you mean? What am I doing? I'm playing.
Doing what they do.
Man, I'm playing off. No, you get up in his face. And so it was very uncomfortable. It was scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I got beat like a drum.
Running by you at first.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then I just watched more film. I watched the guys in the previous, who was better than me or older than me. And I would steal different things from their game. And I would trial and error.
And that kind of honed your craft
Yeah,
over time.
I started to find out, okay, I like this, what he does. I don't like that, what he does. Let me try it out though. Yep, I don't like that. I like this. Okay. I'm gonna use my hands. I'm gonna do this. And so I kind of just I stole bits and pieces from people who had success and I made it my own. And it became my style. It became me.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And so is this the year that you go to the Independence Bowl?
Yes.
And so this is a day that you remember, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
because it's a big turning point in your early career, and it's another chance to overcome adversity and to get out of your feelings, as you would say. Because what happened during that Independence Bowl? Because you're now coming into your own.
Mhm.
You've maximized this bump and run. You're in a bowl game. What happened?
I got an interception to the house. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I want to start with that, which that's got to feel incredible, right?
That felt great, man. It was being on national TV,
Hmm.
even though it was the Independence Bowl, but it was
But people
national
aren't
TV.
putting the eyes on Oregon the way they do now, so that's a big day.
It
That's
was
a
a big day.
chance to showcase that you guys aren't just some schlubby team.
Exactly. And I ended up getting a pick six. It was a gimme. I think I walked into the end zone and, the TV, the cameras was on me. I get to say, hey, Ma, I love you, Ma. Right. And
Awesome.
it was one of the best things that happened to me, but it was also one of the worst things that happened to me because when you have success, you want more of that. And it's not just football, right? It's when you find success, you want more of it.
There's a hunger for more.
There's a hunger for more. But if you don't follow the same patterns that you've been taught to have that success, when you start to become bloodthirsty. I was bloodthirsty, where now I start to skip steps
Okay.
in what I've been taught. So on this particular play, I got an interception, scored a touchdown, did all that. And about 20 minutes later, I'm back out there in the field. And like I said, I'm bloodthirsty. I want the cameras on me. Right.
Mhm.
And so I start to bypass what I've been taught. And what I've been taught is, as a corner, you read run or pass. If it's a pass, you defend, right? You turn, open up your hips or whatever. And when it's a run, now you attack the receiver. So your eyes have to go to him. You got to defeat the block.
Yep.
And it can be a cut block or they can stock block you up high. And then you get rid of the block and then you make the play. And so when this happened, I read run or pass and I wanted to make the play. So I skipped the part where I'm supposed to protect myself and, defend the block and
You
what.
tried to go straight at
I
it.
tried to go straight. I didn't even look at the receiver.
Oh,
And then he chop blocked me and blew out my knee.
pretty catastrophic too,
Yeah,
right?
ACL, MCL, partially torn PCL.
Oh,
And so that happens and I'm thinking my football career is over.
because this is an injury that my wife sustained at a Christmas party once. A lady jumped on her ACL, MCL meniscus tear, so not the PCL.
Yeah.
It destroyed her knee, and to this day, it's a snap, crackle, pop every time she works out. Like it's gross, actually. It's like I'm like, we got to get you back in, but it was so bad that I had to carry her to a taxi. We had to have the surgery twice. Like what you're talking about is not like, oh, okay, I just need a little fix up here. Like that's a pretty big injury.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty big. And so I was scared to death. And being in the hospital and for a couple of days.
So you stayed multiple nights in the
Yeah, it's not like how it is now.
Yeah, but now that I can honestly get out of here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. but going through that, in hindsight, it was one of the best things that ever happened. And I get emotional about it because it was one of those things that, when something's taken away from you, something that that you've nurtured, that you love, and the thought of you not doing it again or not doing it at a high level is very scary.
And at this point in your life, this has become your identity, right? I mean, you are a star football player. That's who you are.
Yeah.
And, it's the same thing in my career or whatever. When something's taken away, you're like, whoa, I'm still that guy, but is everything going to be the same? Is everyone going to see me the same? Do I get to go back? Do I get to try this again? Like, I would be truly afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. It was devastating.
And I want to get into how you get back from that. You're listening to the Fit for Radio podcast. And of course, it's brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club, which is everything you need in a workout facility. It's also a place to make friends and build a family here as you are stronger, smarter, and just more mobile together at Stafford Hills. A beautiful kids club that you can trust with your kids. I do it myself while I work out, and it's peace of mind the whole time. Also, get here and get that membership lined up before the summer months hit and you're out there tanning those buns by the pool, enjoying the grill and so much more. They've got you dialed in at Stafford Hills. Check out all of the amenities for you at staffordhills.com. Because as you're laying there in that bed or you're in the hospital for multiple days, you don't know if you're going to be able to recover from it. How does that work? Because I know that now, actually, where my wife had her knee fixed is the same place they fixed the ducks. It's right down the street. Slocum, it's called. So is that back then, is that a thing where the university takes you under their wing and puts you through a rehab process to try and bring you back?
Yes. Yep. Yep. Everything was with the doctor, Dr. Singer. And yeah, once I get in there, I get back to the facilities and we start rehab. And that's like, it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I was in the rehab center, like 5 days, 5 out of 7 days.
And it's more than physical, it's mental.
Oh, a huge part of it is mental.
Because I mean, when the leg isn't working right, or it's not extending all the way, it's so easy to be like, "Woe is me."
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I would have good days and bad days.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, it was very tough. It was and not just the pain of it, but it's the monotony.
Yep.
Doing the same thing, but then really understanding, Alex, we're doing this to bring you back so you're better, not just at the same. We're not shooting for you to be at the same. You're going to be better, but to be better, you have to learn the mechanics. You have to learn, like, we're going to teach you how to move better, how to run.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not just, okay, you run like this. No, it's how I coach my clients now at the foundation. So, and if you're going to start at the foundation, it's slow because you're trying to groove a movement pattern. You're trying to reset like your nervous system to be able to do things efficiently. And so you have to start slow.
Yeah.
And so before I could run, I had to walk. Before I can skip, I had to march. And so I learned how to do it, with my arms, with my legs, the proper mechanics of running, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with walking. And I was thrilled to be able to walk, even though it was in a 10-yard frame, going forward and backwards. It was great the first day. 2 weeks into that, I'm like, come on, man. What's the next level? I'm ready.
Yeah.
No, you're not. So
baby steps.
Yep. So 2 to 3 weeks, we're just working on walking. Then, okay, Alex, you get to march. I was like, hallelujah. I get to march. Okay. So on march, do that for 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, Alex, now you get to skip. This is beautiful. Whoa, I feel so much better. And then next thing you know, I'm running.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long is the process from injury to where you're cleared for football activity?
Shoot.
The Independence Bowl's got to be right around New Year's.
Yeah, New Year's. I had my surgery right after. I think January, I want to say mid-January is when I probably had surgery, and I started week 1, which was September 1st.
All the way back by week 1.
Yes.
Impressive.
So not even 9 months. Not
Wow.
even 9 months, but I wasn't the same Alex. I wasn't 100% because I was dealing with tendonitis, because that was back when they would take a third of your patella tendon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm dealing with, tendonitis. I got this big clunky brace on. So I was a
Kind of
shadow.
half Alex at this point.
Yeah.
But you're able to start, so you've rallied back to that.
Yes, I was better than the guys.
Second guy.
Yes. And I didn't want to be that. I want to, take my time to heal it, but I was better than the guys behind me. So,
and you were well on your way to before the injury. I mean, pick 6, and you're, like you said, you've got this bloodthirst to crush and to be in the spotlight. Like, you felt like you were ready before the injury. So those frustrations of coming back on the field and not being as fast or as jumpy as you were before must have been a thing to kind of like. Were you able to compartmentalize that and say this is all temporary, or were you stuck in your feelings at that point?
No, I was just, giving myself a pass. Like, this is not me. But how do I make myself me and get faster? If I can't do it physically, I have to do it mentally. So that got me into being a better watcher of film. Like, that year grew my football IQ tremendously. Where if that wouldn't have happened, if I wouldn't have torn up my knee, maybe I would still be delayed. And I'm out there strictly off of athleticism, where now that athleticism is taken from me, and now I have to learn to watch the game differently and grow up a little bit more, from an IQ point of view.
So you're kind of in a forced education, and then when your body recovers, now you've got football IQ, and you're back to being kind of the physical specimen that you're used to being.
Yes, and
pre-injury,
and that was my junior year, and all the things that you just said. But now I have something that's rooted even deeper. I've had something taken away from me, and so now it's like that. Your kid when they they get their Christmas toy and they play with it for so long, and then they lose it.
And then it's super intense.
And then they find it like 8 months later. They're, oh, this is it, yes.
They won't let go of it for anything.
That was me.
Mm-hmm.
So now I got my toy back. I got my athleticism back. Now the value of it, I appreciated it. I appreciate like every day. Like it wasn't, man, we have to practice. Man, we get to practice.
That mindset change is huge.
It's so big.
It gives you a massive advantage over everyone else's kicking rocks on the way in. Because even if they love football and they might hate practice, that's not going to build them the way it's building you at that time.
Absolutely.
So you end up, fast forwarding a little bit. You start to recover from the knee. You start to become yourself again. I know that you were a part of that 95 Rose Bowl team. At this point, do you think, and maybe a little bit before this, at what point do you start to think that you might be able to play all the way at the top level in the NFL? Maybe you feel that you always could, but like at what point is it like becoming not so much of a pipe dream? Because at that time, the University of Oregon isn't sending all the first rounders and stuff that they are now. Yeah. Now it would be more par for the course, but you're breaking the mold at Oregon.
Yeah. And for me, it came before that junior year. So during spring practice, you do your testing, right? And so now I'm a full year, maybe a year and a half past where I tore up my knee.
Okay.
So I'm 100% right before my junior year. And so we go out there and we get timed for our 40s. Now I've been working, right? I've been working at the foundational level in terms of like speed development. So I got a chance to work with the world-class speed coach.
Oh, cool.
With Jimmy Radcliffe. And he was our head strength and conditioning coach, but you didn't get a chance to work one-on-one with him. unless you were injured.
Ah, so you got lucky there again.
I got lucky again, where now I'm spending an hour a day with them, 5 days a week for 4 or 5 months. Nobody else had that. And so when it was time to run 40s, like, man, I already had the confidence because the pain has gone away. Now I'm technically sound,
You've had a speed tutor for the last 4 or 5 months.
world renowned, but we didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the one to say, hey, I'm world renowned. No. But over in Europe, people knew who Jimmy Radcliffe was
Mm-hmm.
because of his plyometric training and the thing. He had books. He had DVDs, or I guess would be VHS.
We were transitioning there.
He had all that type of stuff, right? And so when I ran my 40, I ran a 4.32,
Ooh.
and I was like, I don't know a whole bunch, but I know a 4.32 is world class. I know that there's guys in the NFL that play my position that played a long time, and they don't run that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I ran a 4.32, and I also jumped, but before that, like pre injury, my fastest time was like a 4.46, which is pretty fast.
Yeah.
But a 4.32 is totally different.
And a 4.32 with a guy who, like you said, even when you were a kid, something you were naturally gifted at was you could jump high and far.
Yes.
So you combine those two things with speed, and now you've got a prospect.
Yes.
Right? Like this is on another level. So I'm dying to know about that process of, it's just such a small percentage of people who play sports and then get to play in college, and especially to play in a conference like the Pac-10 at the time, which is a premier conference, and then to have the opportunity to roll to the next level. When you're rounding out your career, there is the 95 Rose Bowl. Is that your final year?
No.
Or you play another year after?
Yeah, I thought about leaving after my junior year, and the let's say the numbers, but the information came back that I was like a third round draft pick at the time, and I was like, that's BS. I don't believe that.
You felt that you were a higher
I'm
pick.
better than yeah. I said, but I'm not gonna. I'll believe you. I'll sit back and I'll play my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. Had a great senior year. Battled through some injuries, some stuff, but I ended up coming back and towards the back end of because I missed 1 or 2 games, and ended up playing in our bowl game against Colorado.
Oh wow! What a full circle moment.
Right? Yeah, but they had the
amazing.
best receiver corps in the country, and I played really well. And,
Nice.
So that coming back and just proving myself, and I wanted to be the best at my position.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out I was. And I'm very thankful that I didn't let my ego jump ahead.
Yeah.
And say, hey, let me leave after my junior year before I was developed.
Because you're showing the discipline there, because in this day and age with the landscape that we see and the legal pay to play, which is now, it would be different. They would just cut you a check to come back if they wanted you to come back, and that would be fine. And I would love to ask you more questions about that part, the old way versus the new way later, but you hang in there and tell me if these stats are incorrect, but your junior year, you're all Pac-10. And then your senior year, you're all Pac-10 and you're an All-American. And so now what you said is correct, that, I'm not a third rounder. I'm a higher pick than that. And so when you get All-American, when you declare, well, you're going to the draft anyway, do you have an idea of where you're going? Is there a nervous anticipation? Is it a chance that you could get something like you would see with a Shedeur Sanders where they roll 6 rounds down and all of a sudden all your money's gone? Like, there has to be all the feelings going on, or are you confident?
I was pretty confident, based off of what I put on tape. And on top of that, my athleticism. Yeah, the athleticism. I knew I would be the first corner. I don't know about DB, but corner.
That's pretty big.
Board. And that year it was one of the best, draft years. I think it's in the top 10. That was Keyshawn Johnson went first. We had Jonathan Ogden. You had Ray Lewis.
Wow. That's
You had
some names.
Terrell Owens, he went in the 4th or 5th round. Brian Dawkins went that year. So what my agent told me, hey, it can go anywhere between 5 and 20 in the first round. So all I heard was first round.
And you're like, and sign me up.
Hey, we're Gucci, So, but I'll never forget, man, going to the combine and you have these different interviews, and not once did New Orleans call me.
Oh, really?
Or fly me out.
So they're not on your radar.
They're not on my radar. I'm thinking Cincinnati had 10, Tampa Bay had 12, and then the Broncos had 15. I'm from Colorado.
It's destiny.
I was like, oh. So during my interview with Shanahan, it was the first time I got like a real definite, like where I could go. Because I went in there and I was like, Coach Shanahan, I just want to let you know I'm from Colorado. He said, I know. I said, I would love to be a Bronco. And he was like, that's great, Alex. But unfortunately, you're not going to be on the board by the time we pick.
Oh, he knew you'd be gone.
I was like, this is the first time I've heard like my agent, hey, anywhere between 5 and 20.
He's heating expectations, whereas in a future Hall of Fame, I believe Shanahan's a Hall of Fame coach, or he should be.
Yeah.
When he says it to you, that feels real.
Yes.
And so do you actually go to the draft?
I went to the draft, yeah.
So you got the suit and you got dialed in.
Yes. Once he said, my agent said, in the first round between 5 and 20. And then I heard that from Shanahan. I was like, it was a dream come true to be able to walk on the stage and hold that up with
Paul Tagliabue?
Yeah. Yep.
At the time. And so you got to walk across the stage, do the handshake. Where do you remember? You probably do. Where was the draft then? Was it back in New York?
It was in New York. I can't remember the name of the hotel that was in, but it was pretty cool.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. So you get drafted number 11 overall by the Saints. And how quickly from shaking Paul Tagliabue's hand to where you get to the Saints? Like, did they fly you out immediately? Because I feel like it's like within minutes you're at a presser with these guys.
Exactly right. So once you get drafted, you take all the pictures and whatnot, and then you do an interview, right, with the TV cameras of the city that you're at. And I remember flying in a private jet the next morning down to New Orleans. And so it was like 24 hours. It was a buzzsaw.
So surreal, all of it.
Yeah, yes. And I don't know what I said. I just know. I don't know.
It's kind of like being floated through it.
Yeah, it's hopefully it's not on the internet somewhere, but I remember flying down there like that next morning and just on cloud 9.
I bet. Now you had grown up all over, so you were pretty seasoned at different cultures and areas, but New Orleans is its own thing. It's a different type of place. Was there any shell shock for you, or were you in a position to where it didn't bother you? How was that for you?
I was not prepared for New Orleans on many different levels. Number one, it's like, I thought it was a big city. It's not a big city.
Mm-hmm.
The dialect, right?
So different.
Dude, I remember going to, it was our mini camp. And so we had a mini camp the week after the draft. And so I went to the mini camp, and I remember going to McDonald's for breakfast, me and a couple other rookies.
Yeah.
And I drove up, I had a rental car. So I drove, and I said, yeah, let me get a number 2, and can I get that with orange juice? Yeah, baby. So I drive up, and they said, okay, so you want number 2 with some orange juice? And I was like, what? What did you say? Orange. You want some orange? I was like, orange.
Hey, I think I want orange juice.
Oh, orange. Orange.
Yeah, they do it their own way there.
I've never heard that type of, like, there was so many times early on when I was there when I couldn't understand what people were saying.
Yeah, and it is tough. I mean, even to this day, when I'm trying to understand people deeply rooted in the city, it is tough.
Yeah.
So while you're there in New Orleans, how did you feel playing for that team? Did you feel like you'd be there forever? How? I mean, because it's your first NFL team, and I've heard that with a lot of guys where you get comfortable and it's a couple of years get through. And how are you feeling, and how are you feeling about like new guys and all of that stuff? Are you feeling pretty solid that you're going to be in New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, when somebody drafts you with the first pick, you think that you're going to be there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought there, and I signed a 5-year deal, and I thought that that was going to be home, and because I didn't know any other place,
Mm-hmm.
from Eugene. Right. I'm
Right,
go
to New Orleans.
to New Orleans. And I was like, okay, this is different. This is down south. It's the dirty South.
Mm-hmm.
Mardi Gras and all that stuff. Yeah. So I became used to that. And, I thought I was going to be there forever. She knew I had 3 coaches, 3 head coaches, 3 different position coaches.
Which is wild in that short time frame.
In 5 years, I had 3 different defensive coordinators. So it's a different language, different styles. And of course, every year is different teammates
Mm-hmm.
that come in. And so, but I thought I would be there forever.
And so while you're there with that many coaching changes, and the one thing I didn't do a ton of research on was the records of those teams. Were you experiencing a lot of losing there then because we're having so much coaching turnover?
I took so many L's in my first 4 years there. And it was one of those deals where here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we got new coaches, got new philosophies, we have some new players, but here we go again.
Just the vicious circle.
And then my 5th year is when we had Coach Haslett, Jim Haslett, who I had on my first year. He was a defense coordinator my first year with the Saints.
Okay, and had come back.
Yep, and then he came back for the head coaching job my 5th year. And there was something different. There was a new type of energy. They really went after free agents, not like the big market free agents, but we got some dudes who had experience, but they was right on the cusp of something.
Okay. So you were bolstering the roster in order to kind of make a run there.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's your final year with the Saints. Do you guys ever make a playoff when you're there?
Yeah. So we made it to the playoffs. We won our division and then we did the first thing that we never did before, was win a playoff game. So we beat the Rams. We had them back-to-back games. We had them in week 17.
Oh, yeah. So your
last
16th game, week 17.
Yep. And then we had them the next week as well. And we beat them to win our first playoff game. And then we ran into a buzzsaw with Minnesota in 2000.
And so that's Randy Moss.
Yeah.
And that's
we were like 14-2 or maybe 15-1.
Is this Dante Culpepper at this point, or is it still Randall?
No.
It's Dante.
Yep.
That was a vicious team. I'm a Vikings fan, which also known as a career loser. But that team is one of the teams that growing up that I was already a Vikings fan, by proxy, because my best friend growing up was one, and his dad used to scream at the TV, and I thought it was awesome. But then it was Randy Moss and all that stuff where I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And Chris Carter and the whole deal.
Yeah.
So you're up against a buzzsaw there. That's a superstar team. And if I remember correctly, that team is on the verge, and it collapsed, but it was on the verge of making a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, they lost to the Giants. I think that field goal kicker who was I think he only missed one.
Mm-hmm.
Anderson.
Yeah.
He
misses that one. And that's a theme with that. I could do a whole podcast on what happens to my dreams when it comes to sports. It's the Fit for Radio podcast, and it's brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club, ranked the #1 health and wellness facility in the Portland area. And when you get here, you can tell exactly why that is. They've got this quality saltwater pool surrounded by chairs and a little grilling spot outside ready for spring and summer. And you want to get in here, get yourself a family membership, an amazing kids club, and they actually cap those memberships so that You don't have to be searching for a chair all summer when you're out at the pool. You have room to enjoy your membership at Stafford Hills, where they have the premium indoor and outdoor tennis, the high quality workout facility upstairs, great classes, and so much more. So, where you just want to pump some iron, maybe you want to go read a book by the fire. It's all here at Stafford Hills. Check it out today, staffordhills.com. So, I'd like to know, when you're finishing up your time with the Saints, that contract, so that 5-year contract has run its course.
Yes.
And do they discuss re-signing with you, or is it weird? Like I've been in those situations where I got this big contract, but no one's like looking at me in the hall, and like I'm feeling kind of like persona non grata. How did the end of your time there go?
Yeah. They end up, when I hit free agency, because they had some offers. So they offered me and the other corner, um, who was with the Saints. They offered us basically the same contract, and I was like, "No, no, I don't. I'm not doing that. I'm not. I think I'm better than him. I'm not going to take the same thing. I'm going to take my chances in free agency." And the first day of free agency, I'll never forget, man, I was playing golf in New Orleans, and the San Diego Chargers called. And I was like, I love San Diego.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like we all dream of going to San Diego.
Right? He said, "Hey, we'll fly you out tomorrow. Come out, have a meeting, and see where this goes." So yeah, I flew out there and heard what the pitch, and it was like how it was back in '90 when I was getting recruited, to go to the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, all the sunshine and buttercups going on.
Oh man, they tell you all the stuff that you can do and how their system fits with my skill set and whatnot, and it sounded great. And we end up drinking the Kool-Aid.
And you signed up.
Yeah.
And so when you get there, I'm guessing you drank the Kool-Aid, so it wasn't exactly as advertised when you get there, or is it for a bit?
I didn't ask enough of the right questions in terms of how the expectations that they had out of their corners.
Mm-hmm.
So they played a very different style of defense that I wasn't quite used to. I was used to aggressive defense, but basically what they did is they allowed the safeties to play freestyle, and all the stress was on the corners. Because I'm okay if you're going to leave me out there without any help.
Yeah, you've guarded some of the biggest names in the history of football.
Right? Yeah, I'm okay with guarding them. But in my head, there's time. So if we're blitzing, that's cool. Don't keep me out here on this island and you're not blitzing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what they did with the first coaching staff was they did a lot of zone coverage, and they let their free safeties just kind of, play willy-nilly, but we wouldn't blitz. They just more of a freestyle, and they would leave us on the islands without,
forces
time. Yeah.
Forces you to be attacked more, correct?
Yeah. So I'm like, hold on now. There's a lot of stress. I would much rather go to Tampa Bay and play cover 2 all day.
You're supposed to be relaxed in San Diego right now.
Yeah, it's high stress.
So while you're with the Chargers in 2002, you wrote me a note here that said you hit the biggest crossroad in your playing career. What exactly does that mean?
So in 2001, that was my first year there. I had to sign a big deal. It was big back then. Now it's like peanuts, but it was, I go in there and I end up I didn't tear up my knee. I tore some meniscus.
Same knee you've dealt with before, or other knee?
It was the other knee.
Okay.
So I tore the meniscus, and I pretty much, I still play, but I'm out 2 weeks, playing for another week, out another week, and I end up having another surgery on my ankle. So the last 6 games of the year, I'm on IR, right? And so the next year, it's draft day, right? I don't give a damn about no draft anymore. The only draft I was more concerned about was in 1996, my year, and then all the other ones before then, right? So after that, I don't watch draft.
Yeah.
But they asked the starters to come out to Qualcomm Stadium. They're going to do a family event. They have the draft on the big screen. They had jumpy houses, popcorn, hot dogs.
It's supposed to be a great day.
Great day. It's San Diego.
Yeah.
It's April, sunny. We signing autographs and all that type of stuff. And then, the draft is going on, and all of a sudden, it's the San Diego Chargers' turn. With the 5th pick, the San Diego Chargers select Quentin Jammer, cornerback, University of Texas.
Great player.
Great player. I was like, oh no, they're drafting him to take my job. Because the other corner was Ryan McNeil. Well, Ryan McNeil led the NFL in interceptions.
So they're not going against him.
They ain't going against him. They're going for the guy that had 2 surgeries and we just paid. They're going after him.
And it's not a 5th rounder. It's Quentin Jammer.
It's Quentin Jammer, who was a new and improved version of me back in 96.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things that, and I told my wife, I was like, hey, babe, call the realtor. Right after that, I called the realtor. We up out of here. We getting cut. We getting released. But that phone call never happened. And so I remember going into training camp, and I've seen it over the years. This is my 7th year. I've seen it when guys come to training camp, and then after the first practice, or even before the first practice of training camp, they get cut. So I'm still out.
You're not comfortable.
I'm not comfortable. I come in there, little bitty bag. You know what I'm saying? Got my fan, got my pillow.
You're not putting a bunch of stuff on the shelf.
It ain't like it used to be, big ass bag. No, it's a little bitty bag. And I come in there and, I sign and, they give my keys to my dorm. And then John Butler. Hey, Alex. Hey, after you get checked in, come to my office. Gosh, here we go.
Why do they bother having you check in if this is going to happen?
Dude, I don't know. But I go in there, put my stuff down, go to his office. Hey, John, what's up? Come on in, Alex. Have a seat. So I'm like, okay.
Buckle up.
Yeah. Hey, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to redo your deal. We're going to rip up that contract we gave you. So that $2.1 million you're supposed to get this year, you ain't getting that. We're going to give you a signing bonus of $100,000. And then your salary is going to be minimum.
The minimum.
So, which I think was like $625 for a veteran.
Which is not in the financial plan that you've set out.
That's right. Still a lot of money.
But still.
It ain't 2.1.
And for people who are listening to this that don't understand, you also are having a pro athlete makes their money in a hyper-focused number of years, whereas in someone who has a 30 or 40-year career, sure, you can make a certain amount of money every year, but not all the money, but the vast majority of your money comes from these finite number of years. So you should be concerned about the difference between $2 million and $600,000 because that's your nest egg.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I had no leverage, right? I had 2 surgeries, one on the knee, one on an ankle. So, but he said, Alex, but here's what I'm going to do. You're going to have playtime incentives. If you play 65% of the snaps, you get $150,000. You play 75, you get $300,000. You play 85, you play 95% of all the snaps, you get all your money back. I was like, shit, where do I sign?
95%. But the problem is they have to let you on the field.
Exactly. But here's the thing that gave me confidence is I learned a long time ago, my second year in the NFL, something that I've been practicing, and it was a framework that really helped give me success. Because the average NFL career is what, 3.5 years,
Yeah.
right? 3.5 years. So I was able to play 8, but it wasn't because I was a 4.3 guy. All right. I'm 5'10", 5'11" on a good day. Right.
Yeah.
We just talked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't because of that, but it was because of this framework that I learned and I've been practicing over the years. And it was assignment, alignment, and adjustment. I need to know my assignment. I need to know my job, my role. But that's not enough. You need to know other people's jobs and their roles. So now you can hold them accountable and they can hold you accountable. So the more that we know each other's jobs and our roles, if you're not where you're supposed to be at a given time, you can get checked. Say, hey man, you're supposed to be here. I'm expecting you to do this you're not doing that. I can't play aggressively. I'm expecting you to be where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right. So I start to, at an early age in my second year, I started to study more of the playbook, not just what my role and responsibility is. And then the second one was alignment. I used to align however I wanted to, however I felt. Right. Bump and run. I'm supposed to be inside. Sometimes I line up outside. I'm supposed to be at 8 yards off when I was really supposed to be at 7. So I started to hone in and focus and practice these things on a daily basis after my second year or after my first year. And the third thing was adjustment. Like I need to be ready for the adjustments. Like it's not Pee-wee. They don't just hike the ball.
Yeah, you got to have a plan.
Yeah, there's a motion. There's a shift. There's an audible. You need to be ready for the adjustments as they come. You can't be behind. Well, I've been working on these things for this many years, and I knew that was a foundation that Quentin Jammer didn't have. Yes, he had the bells and whistles. He was fast, big, strong. He had all the ability, but he didn't have the knowledge that I had.
Yeah.
And I ended up just honing in on those things. And I had my best year. Stat wise, I had my best year.
Nice.
And I played 95% of the snaps. I did not come off that damn field.
You got the 95.
I got all my money back.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's incredible. It teaches you quite a bit about perseverance and overcoming adversity, right? Because, people could get right back into the woe is me moments and you could have just slipped right down the list.
It would be easy for me to get into my feelings and then start to, cuss out my coach and, the GM.
And then you start being the toxic guy and nobody wants to be around the toxic guy, especially with a couple of injuries. So you kind of had to
think.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so how does it round out? Because when I was researching you and those early 2000s, that's where I remember seeing you on the field, is in that Chargers uniform. But your career itself is, you don't realize it at the time, but is past the mid-level. You're starting to get on the back end of your career. While you're there, you've recovered from these injuries and you've proved them wrong and played those 95% of the snaps and you've had your best year. Are you convinced that this is going to go on for a while, or you're seeing the new guys, the fresh blood come in over and over, and your brain can do it for so long, right? But everybody, I mean, even Michael Jordan at some point has to go home, which is painful. So where are you at as it's winding down there?
I'll never forget. I had signed I was a free agent again, because the Chargers, that was my first time they let me go. They released me after the season because they wanted me to restructure my deal again. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. That's too stressful. And so they let me go. And I remember signing with the then Washington Redskins after they did their thing in a draft. They didn't draft any DBs. So they brought me in, they signed me. And I never forget, It was my 8th year. I was in my 30s now, and I'm guarding this receiver. He was in his 2nd year. This dude was a specimen. He was like 6'4", 220. He could run and jump out the building. I remember guarding him. I wasn't even guarding him. I was off on the sidelines, and I remember seeing this ball that was thrown. I was like, ain't no way he can catch that. This dude jumped so high, and he jumped it, and he caught it. I was like, yeah, this might be my last year. Because if I got to,
How am I going to get there?
Yeah, yeah. But that was like a eye-opening moment when I was new. Like, okay, I can get one, maybe 2 years out.
But you knew that the meter was
Writing
running.
was on the wall, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then
Unless I switch positions and play safety, and I haven't played safety since high school.
Yeah, it didn't seem like that was the move.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you finally decide to retire, it's in 2005. And is the family still in San Diego? Because you've played for another team, but I'm guessing, did you go out and take care of that yourself?
Yeah, so I got cut from the Washington Redskins on the last cut. And my family just moved out like a day before, and we thought it was safe. But it wasn't safe. So she said, okay, we're going back to San Diego. Good luck wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
The next day after that, I went to Detroit. And so I signed a contract with Detroit, but they went back to San Diego.
Which is kind of strange too, because you were born in Detroit. You're like, well, that could be exciting.
Yeah, it was really cool. I got a chance to spend a lot of time with my Grammy and
nice
uncle. Yeah,
and they probably all wanted you to be a Lion at some point.
Yeah.
So how did that end there?
Not well.
Unceremonious.
Yeah, it wasn't because I was the last one in. Right, they brought me in after the first game.
Okay,
and so I was there. They had a rash of injuries, and what typically happens is the last one in is the first one out.
Yeah,
because they got to bring in other guys because they could put guys on IR, and so yeah, I was up out of there.
So at that point, do you realize that it's over, or are you still chasing?
I'm still chasing. Sure, I chased for a year and a half.
And are you going to training camps, or are you just got to put your feelers out? Like,
I'm
calling your agent.
I'm hoping for workouts.
Just give me a chance.
Yeah, just give me a chance. Come in on Tuesday. Typically every team that's their day off, and they bring in guys on a bubble.
Yep.
Vets for a workout. And so that's what I'm looking for. And in the off season, you get some of those.
Okay, that makes sense. But that does not end up panning out the way that you're hoping that it would.
Right.
And so when you actually decide that you're going to retire, your original plan is that you're going to go wheels up, right? You're going to play golf, and you're going to enjoy a little of that sunshine and the fruits of your labor.
Absolutely.
And how did that go for you? Was that everything you hoped it would be, or not?
Not at all. So it was pretty cool because now, okay, I'm not playing football anymore. We got money. We got homes, multiple cars, multiple homes. I'm going to, volunteer in my kids' school. I'm going to play lots of golf. I'm going to work out when I want to work out, which is the first time in decades.
Forever, yeah.
Yeah. And that was cool for about 6 months. And then after that, there was something that was like, man, this is not what I expected retirement to be as a professional athlete. And I just started like, man, what do I want to do? What else out there? What am I good at?
Because I'm guessing your identity, you're kind of in a transition here, right? Because, like, I'll use myself as an example. I was on the radio for 23 years, and now I'm not, and so like your kids see you a certain way, your colleagues, your friends, everybody has this title on you, and you're still the same guy, but all of a sudden there's an identity shift. And for me, it's weird. And I can only imagine for a pro athlete at the top level, that's got to be strange.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very strange because that platform that in your abilities, right? Your abilities, the platform And especially in this country where, football is king.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many doors that were open to me, so many different relationships that were open that now that's no longer there. And your identity, if you're not careful, it gets tied into what you do.
Yep.
So the question that I asked wasn't, it was, and what am I going to do? Where it should have been, and it didn't come until years later, is what type of person am I?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who am I?
Because you're really in all those years, there's not really a requirement to dig deeper, right? Because it's all coming to you. Now you're putting in the work. Don't get it twisted. You're doing things that most of us can't do. And your hard work actually are what made you more than a prospect. It made you a star. But it also is nobody is challenging you to dig deeper into yourself and to find this deeper meaning because you're still kicking ass on a football field. And that's really all they need from you.
Yeah.
But now football's gone. Golf's great until you did it 30 days in a row and you're like, okay, getting a little bored over here.
Yeah.
Like, what's my purpose?
Exactly. And I think what happens is if something has been doing something for you for so long, it can I want to say protect. It can protect your character, but it can just be in front of your character. Like my abilities, the sport that I played, the platform that I had, that was the first thing that people saw. My character was behind that. Now, when that's stripped away, now all they can see is who you are. And when I hired a coach to help me, understand like, man, what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? The first thing that he would ask me is, man, do you know who you are? And he just started asking me different questions and he started spending time with me and he started seeing things that I needed to know that nobody else really told me. He said, one of the biggest things was like, Alex, you're very transactional. I was like, what do you mean? You don't treat everybody the same. You treat people who has a greater title and they can do something for you. You treat them differently how you would people who you might not think could do anything for you. So that's very dangerous. You don't know what people can do for you. Just because they have a title, that don't mean that they have the character or whatever to help you out. Where somebody who might be at a lower level in terms of like job or whatever, they might have an uncle or a parent that can open the biggest doors for you. And I was like, man, and maybe that transaction was just me doing a sport and doing things for so long. Like, you give me something, I give you something. You give me money, you have my time, or you do this. So it was one of those things that when a mirror was shown in front of my face, I didn't like it. And so I do things how I've been raised in this sport, right? Is if you want to get good at anything, you have to have intentional practice. People ask me, like, what made you do some of the things that you was able to do? How can you play 8 years in the NFL where only 3% of NFL players do? Why is that? I was intentional about how I practiced. So I can take that same framework into my life off the field. I intentionally practice creating relationships that are not just about transactions, but real relational. I can practice that.
Spend a little time golfing and kind of start to abandon the idea of just being retired. You need an identity. You need something to do day to day. At what point does the family decide that they're done with the San Diego time? And because I know now that you live in Oregon, which you're a Duck, and what brought you guys back here?
So, man, me and my wife, we started, talking. It was like, okay, this San Diego thing, there's no roots here. I'm not working, we don't have any family here. What if we move to Colorado or Oregon? I'm from Colorado. My family there, she's from Oregon. She has a bigger family up here. And she was like, no, It's Oregon. I said, okay. Because we keep hearing about this housing market crash thing.
Yeah.
If we're going to do it, let's do it now so we can sell, make some money and then live up in Oregon where it's cheaper.
You get way more bang for your buck,
Right?
especially at that time.
Yeah. So we did that. We moved up here in the summer of 2006. Yeah.
So when you get here, at some point you ended up working with Nike as really a world class trainer and consultant. How did you end up there? Was that through connections from football?
I wish I could say that. It kind of was, but I came up and I went to play golf with my good buddy Chad Cota.
Okay.
He had a celebrity golf tournament, and I played with him and two other guys. And golf celebrity golf tournament. And we out there, we're
Having a good old
having
time.
a good old time, man, for 5 or 6 hours. And I end up exchanging numbers with a couple of the guys, and it was cool. And then 6 months later, I'm starting to ask myself, okay, what do I want to do? I think I want to be a trainer. Yeah, because I was inspired by a trainer when I was growing up. I want to train, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. That's what I want to do. And I end up talking to another trainer. He said, man, you don't want to be a trainer here, at the Bay Club. It wasn't the Bay Club, but
Yeah,
um, he
I
said,
remember.
yeah, you need to go to Nike. And I was like, Nike? What you mean? He said, yeah, they have some gyms there and they have memberships and they have trainers. You should try out there. I said, okay. So I end up, getting on the internet, finding out of getting a phone number of the person, the hiring manager, or whatever, and called them and told them I would love to, be a trainer. And so she had me come in, do like basically an interview, and she hired me. And she said, Alex, do you know you had the job as soon as you came in? I was like, what do you mean? She said, yeah, you played golf with my husband.
So you had already built the relationship.
And he went on and on about how good of a guy that you were, where, typically celebrities or guys, who play ball, they're a
A little
different,
cold.
yeah, a little cold, a little transactional. And I was like, man, that's great. And so, yeah, they got me into the door at Nike and, was a trainer, taught a couple classes. And then more and more people started to find out about my background. And they started to have me do work with some of their not just their employees, but started to have me travel all over the world with their elite level athletes
That's cool.
for photo shoots, video shoots, because I live that life. I don't put them on a pedestal,
Mhm.
and it's refreshing.
You can keep them at a ground level.
Yes, and I don't change who I am to fit.
Yeah.
You're working with Ray Allen, or you're working with some of their other athletes.
You're desensitized to it. It's
Yeah,
the
I'm like,
same
man,
thing.
it's just yeah,
Like I've interviewed all these rock stars and all this stuff, and it's the luster is there when it's from a million miles away, but when you're right there, they're just a human, just like you are. And so, like, oh wait, what was it like? Did you freak out? You're like, not really,
yeah,
because you're used to it, and
yeah,
you know that they're just another dude. They just might have a little bit different bank account
exactly. Yeah.
than you do. So you're doing that with Nike, and how long do you stick with that for?
So I was doing that, and then I started to do more work with other brands within the Nike, women's training, men's training, Nike football. Start doing stuff
Nice.
with Jordan brand, and they was getting into the training space, but they didn't know anything about training, so they would hire me, and I come in there and kind of teach them about what a badass 18-year-old, 17-year-old, what their journey looks like.
That's awesome.
So yeah, did that. End up doing Nike did a collab with Microsoft Xbox, where they came up with this Nike Connect training. And so back when they could, with the Connect piece,
Yes.
with
Where
Microsoft,
the active gaming.
yes. So they used my avatar
Oh, really?
as one of the trainers.
Oh,
There was only
awesome.
2 trainers, and I was one of them. And so I did that and traveled all over the world to promote it and whatnot. But then I started getting to like speaking. And, being on Nike, they start to hear about my background. You play professional, you play NFL. Oh, why don't you come talk to my team about leadership? Oh, what leadership? I don't know. Tell some cool
Y'all
stories.
figure it out.
Yeah. But I started to do that, for years. And then that's when I hired a coach because I know how important coaching is. Like I know
Yeah.
how to practice, right? And I have the discipline, but I know to get like a jump start or get ahead, I hire a coach for anything that I want to do. And I want to fast past it. I hire a coach, somebody who's been there and who can really teach that. And so I did that when it came to speaking. I did it when it came to podcasting. I did it when it came to writing a book.
It's smart of you. I mean, it's in many different jobs, it's just considered continued education. And having a coach is like going back to school. It's same thing with a dentist or a doctor. They don't go to dental school and then they don't go learn anything after that. You have to continue to kind of hone your craft and to sharpen
Yeah,
that blade. And having the coaching experience is a way to do that.
absolutely.
So you as you've moved forward in 2016, you started the speaking, which it's kind of it's pretty impressive to have both of these things like you do, that you were a world class athlete and then you are a good public speaker, because that doesn't always transfer over. Right. And because I'm a good speaker, but I can't play cornerback. That's for sure. So that part of it is kind of one of the things that makes you special, because it you can speak to these people and you're not blowing smoke. Like you can teach them how to achieve their goals through hard work and dedication and a plan. And the fact that you're not afraid to say, I don't do it alone myself, because if I don't know how to podcast, I get somebody to teach me. If I don't know how to write a book, I go about it that way. And I think it's brilliant because so many people they're too full of themselves to ask for outside advice from the expert, the
Yeah.
person who's going to make you smarter.
Mhm.
We're a learning computer. We're always getting smarter if we allow it.
Exactly. And I have plenty of friends who are entrepreneurs, who are CEOs of companies, and when I talk with them, they have coaches.
Yeah.
So, the ego part, and I know what ego can do. It can keep you kind of stuck,
Yeah.
right? And so I just, why not operate like a high level CEO where they get coaches, you know?
It's pretty impressive. And, we haven't even addressed the fact that your coaching style also, you've had mentors and you've had coaches, but I think another aspect that's important that makes you special in this lane is you're a father, and you're a father to you have 6 kids?
8.
8 kids.
Yeah.
See, I knew it was big, and I'm like,
It's big.
tell me 8 or 6 or 8, and that's what's wild. It's like 6 is daunting. I'm from 4. I have 3. You have 8.
8.
So you're a coach yourself to them. You're a mentor. You're all the other things that you seek out in other people. But I think there's a very big part of being able to communicate with others when you know how to communicate with children, and your children in particular, because every day is, at least for me, is a different game. It's your emotions are hitting different, and you've got boys and girls. I've got 3 girls, so it's mostly emotions.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I'm a better communicator because I know how to listen to them, read between the lines, take little pieces of knowledge, and also realize that I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And that sometimes I got to go and get coached on how to address them or any scenario. So I think that that's an understated part of it, is you're raising a full house full of good people, which is not easy to do. And do you feel like that ties into your ability to communicate with others?
Yeah, I think so. Like having, 8 kids, 5 boys, 3 girls, they're all different people. They all have different drivers in terms of what makes them tick. And it's just like I use the same things that I coach on, right? And so one of the biggest things is influence, right? Which is that's what leadership is. Leadership is influence. When you break it down, there's influence. And so like how do you influence people? Well, there's 10 different influencers that I coach on, that I operate on, and that I'm intentional about. And one of them, you already said it, was how you communicate, right? How you communicate, intuition, how you feel or how you make others feel. I'm very in tune to those things, but one of the biggest things is character, which is who you are when you boil it down. And
Mm-hmm.
so with me and my wife, we are very, I don't care how many touchdowns my son scores, how many interceptions. I don't care how many goals my daughter gets in whatever sport that she plays. At the end of the day, it's always about what type of person are we raising? Are we raising somebody that takes accountability for any and everything, to be kind, to respect authority? That's number one for us
Mm-hmm.
is character. And yes, I'm gonna cheer for you. I'm gonna cheer for you whatever sport you play. Um, but at the end of the day, it comes down to character first.
And you are and I have to point this out because this is so amazing. And this is where the dad thing, there's an intersection when you're the parent, but you're also teaching lessons to people who have bright futures. You have a son who's in the NFL. You've got another son who's a very good football player. And when you were coming to meet me, he had parked in front of your garbage can. And so, like, what's funny to me is that you're always teaching the lessons along the way. And I asked you, like, how do you keep people from getting a big head or for getting out in front of themselves? And you said it's teaching them the little things now so that when they are on a bigger platform where people are afraid to tell them no, they have those fundamentals. And, you're taking a picture of the garbage can too close to the car and you're like sending it to them as you should. Like, this is your actions are representative of the family, and there's a chain reaction. Garbage doesn't get picked up, it's loaded up for next week. And I just think it's brilliant that you stay in the lane of where I'm still teaching you lessons until we're done. And I don't think you're ever truly done.
Yeah.
They may stop listening, but they're still in the listening lane. And I thought that was a very awesome thing that you're still willing to teach those lessons, because while they're under your roof, they're still learning from you, and they're a representation of you,
Absolutely.
an extension of you as a person.
Yes, sir. And it's like, so we had a conversation last night. Like, he comes home from school, and he's in a hurry because he doesn't want to pack his lunch. So he comes home, makes a lunch, and then he dips. Okay. So I come home, I'm like, what the hell?
You got
It's a
stuff
damn
everywhere.
tornado. What happened to here? And so I'm like, okay. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm gonna have a talk with him. I took a picture of him. I said, I don't want to see this again. We're gonna have a talk later. So then when I get home, I talk to him. I said, hey man, you left crumbs and stuff everywhere. Oh, it was 3 crumbs. Right? So now I got to paint a picture. I said, it was 3 crumbs. I said, have you ever had mice in your house? No, I haven't. I said, I have. I grew up with mice.
It's no good.
You don't want mice. Trust me, especially you, which you ain't the toughest cat. Okay. You don't want mice. You don't want to be hearing mice scratch up against wood and cardboard. You don't want that. Don't let this happen. And I said, if you let this happen again, if this happens again, you're not going to be playing video games. And this dude plays some video games.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take your video games for 2 days. And then if you do it again after that, you won't have it for a whole week. And we can go deep because I know I can take your phone.
Yeah. You know what hurts.
Yeah. I don't do whoopings. I don't do spankings. I don't do none of that type of stuff.
This day and age, it's the warfare that works a lot better is electronics.
Yeah. I said, whatever that you value, I'm going to take it away.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, why would you do that? Man, that's too. I said, well, you have a choice.
And it's a simple fix.
Yeah.
Clean up the crumbs.
Yeah. Be intentional.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. I mean, I think you're a great dad and a great leader. I would like to point to where people, because you've written multiple books.
I read 2 books. One of them came during the pandemic, which
And
I
what are they
read.
both called?
So The Ultimate Playbook for Athletes, and it's all about, like, using how to use their influence, right? Especially for athletes. And this is like high school, college, pro athletes, whatever, but it helps them understand, like, their influence that they have. Because a lot of us, we go through, certain stages where we don't understand why doors open or why they're closed to us.
Hmm.
And so this really dives into that. So it's a leadership book. And then my second book is Breaking on the Ball of Life. So it's just like, how do we make decisions? And so a lot of it, happens where, because we do enough study, we spend enough time around people or in different rooms, you can see opportunities happen, or
Yeah.
you can see them and like, nah, I think I'm going to take this, I'm going to jump on this. Or there's other things that happen. It's like, I don't want to be anywhere close to this because they don't align with who I am or the values or the faith that I have.
That's awesome. I'm actually going to get both of those books. Is there a website that people can go to? Amazon? Where's it at?
Drew, I keep it easy. AlexMolden.com.
That's
You
it.
can
That's
go
it.
there. Yep. And you can go there. You can get the book there. You can find out some more information about what I do in terms of coaching, speaking, whether it's doing a workshop or my leadership program that I have.
That's amazing. And it's been a real privilege to sit down and chat with you. And I'd love to have you back on sometime to talk about some more of your ideas about leadership and the things that you tell people when you want them to succeed. And I'm really excited to read your book, or both of your books. One of them had actually, the title had been sent to me by one of those friends who said that I needed to meet you. So they were right. You're a good guy. You're a duck. And I think people could learn.
Which makes me a good guy.
Well, that in itself, all by itself, you were good to go when you got here. And I don't know if you noticed, I put green lights behind you and everything.
I did.
It was all designed for you. So go Ducks. And also your biggest accomplishment to me is you're a great father and you're raising good people. And that's our legacy in the end. So thank you so much for coming on. AlexMolden.com. Get those books, learn something, and maybe you'll change your life too.
Love it. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.